Here. So welcome, first class of 2025. It is January 4th, 2025. Our focus for today is going to be on rooting to rise. And a little bit of what we'll sense inside of that is how we might go into bits of contraction before we feel the expansion on the other side, and that those rhythms are very intrinsic to our entire growth process. So I want to share with you a few short pieces that will start to show up in all of our Zoom classes. The first is a red waiver for those of you catching this via YouTube. And if you're signing up for live courses, you'll get this in paper form or digital form in the future. And this waiver says, I understand that I am participating in a therapeutic yoga class, which includes instruction in physical movements, breath work, and natural vagus nerve stimulation. I recognize that this practice has inherent risks that include bodily injury, and I understand that this class is not a substitute for medical or psychotherapeutic treatment. I hereby accept and take full responsibility for any and all risks associated with the participation in this class. So thank you for your willingness to assume that responsibility. And for me, it's intrinsic to how we approach this class in general, which is to listen to your body, do what's right for you, rest as needed, honor your sensations, all that has been part of this from day one. I also want to really honor that yoga has significant roots that go well beyond the practices that we find here in certainly the United States and across the West. So please join me in helping to reduce the harm done from Western cultural appropriation of yogic wisdom traditions. In aims to participate in decolonization efforts, I acknowledge the recency of yoga within the United States as compared to the rich and extensive history of these traditions in Bharat or India, which date back thousands of years. There's something for me about really settling into that root system that's extraordinarily important and has been a really enriching part of the last few weeks of deep reflection. Not that these yogic roots haven't actually always, to some degree, been there in my practice. I grew up with yoga being introduced when I was 7 years old, going to Muktananda's ashram and Kripalu, where Amrit Desai was still residing. I chose to do my yoga teacher training at Kripalu at the age of 22. So I've been tapping into that root system for many, many years. And sometimes we can lose touch with our roots, whether that's our own cultural roots or the roots of the systems that we teach. And it's important to loop back around. The uprooting that can happens within us individually as well, right? There are ways in which we might move up and reside more in our heads than in our bodies, in which case we get uprooted from our own embodied felt sense. We get uprooted when we identify with the kind of external nature of the flux and flow of things and the material world, and we lose touch with our deeper spiritual nature. So yoga is a profound path that guides us home again and again, that actually is a built-in path back to the true self, or to that deep rooting in what we might call the larger self, the wisest self. So from a yogic perspective, the root cause of our suffering is the not knowing the truth of who we really are. And yoga is this path back home. Physically, I often find that the times that I spend on my mat or in my practice are not just working toward some state of ecstasy or bliss or expansion, but they're actually the opportunities to work with the contractions, to work with the discomfort. It gives the tools to go towards the places in which we feel disconnected and to work with that. Last week, literally a week ago, Saturday, I had a migraine and I wasn't working that day, and I had space just to go in and work with it yogically, if I want to think about it that way, to breathe into the sensation, to contract around it, to be with the emotion and the felt sense that it held for me. I I chose to basically stay in bed in my pajamas all day. I kind of jokingly called it bed asana. And, kind of working with what that contraction held for me. And anytime I do have the opportunity to work that deeply with a contraction, to trust that it takes me somewhere new, there is this inevitable opening on the other side. And when we get on the mats for our practice, there will be opportunities throughout this whole journey to go toward sensation. And you get to pendulate, right? You get to titrate it. You can choose how much of a contracted sensation or an area of discomfort you might go toward. And then we have to back away and we take a break and we look around and we take in beauty and we remember that we're being held by something that allows us to bring grace into those tight spots. So that's a little bit of our contraction and expansion rhythm for today. I'll share one last little piece here that came out of that process, that journey for me with the discomfort, which was a dream. And this dream, I was walking with my husband by a friend's house, and the friend was cultivating this garden and had tilled the soil. And instead of planting seeds or anything with roots, the friend was simply planting cut flowers into the soil. So it looked really beautiful on the surface, but there was no root system to sustain it. And I think sometimes these dream moments or fragments or images are these potent reminders of what does it mean to really plant a garden that's sustainably beautiful, that is nourishing at all levels, that taps into the nourishment that's available within our root system. One more part of the dream is as the dream continued, at one point we're walking on a bridge over a body of water, and I accidentally drop my keys over the side of the bridge. Oh no, how are we going to get home, right? And so my husband and I descend and we get into a boat and we're looking, and the keys hadn't fallen into the water. They'd fallen onto the banks of the water. And so I was able to get the keys back. And when I woke up and felt my way into those dream spaces, the experience for me was that the water, in many ways, for me, feels like the unconscious, like that which is so beyond, whether it's a personal unconscious or a collective unconscious. It carries so much depth. And the boat is the body. It's the vehicle, right? And it's one of the vehicles, the body and breath and movement. The keys are that which helps unlock the ability to travel, right? To move beyond that which is known and to deepen in our knowing of ourselves, to deepen in this process. So I'll pause there. I'll let all of that percolate as it does, as it might, within our collective space. I have a card and I have a poem, and then we'll go into some movement together. Card for today from Post-Traumatic Growth deck is the expansion and contraction card. Here we are. one of those beautiful moments that I find often standing at the lake that's the mile walk from my house, of looking at this absolute stunning reflection, mirror image of above and below. And the words that accompany this card, rhythms of expansion and contraction, exist within and all around you, from flowers that open and close to the phases of the moon. While part of you might feel ready to spread your wings and fly, you might also be tentative or frightened to step off the edge into the unknown. You might begin to open and then contract out of fear. With support, you can learn to trust that the roots that support your expansion are buried deep inside of the tight, constricted places. Honor your rhythms of expansion and contraction. You will learn to dance joyfully in the expanse and rest peacefully in the quiet spaces. And our poem for today is called In Praise of Hands. In Praise of Hands by Stuart Kestenbaum. It is not just the people who live in the city who've lost the thread that ties them to the woven world of stones and earth, fields alive with pollen and wings. Who among us understands how oceans rise and fall, currents swirling around the planet with messages in bottles floating in water? When the tide is out, we can go to the shore, dig clay with our bare hands, and make something beautiful from it, a vessel with thin walls that holds a canyon. When the tide is out, we can go to the shore and dig clay with our bare hands and make something beautiful from it, a vessel with thin walls that holds a canyon. In both hands, like an offering, we can hold the memory of eroded stones and earth, eons contained in this empty bowl. And we can fill it with water that reflects the sky that has witnessed everything since time began. We can fill this empty bowl with water that reflects the sky that has witnessed everything since time began, and we can drink and be blessed, clouds gathering over us. Mm. All right. So for a moment, before we move into our practice, I invite you to let your hands, like this offering, be this empty bowl. Just allow your hands to create a little bowl shape with their thin walls that hold a canyon. And sensing perhaps this empty vessel that is in itself awaiting something, ready to be filled, ready for receiving of whatever it is that you will pour into this space, whatever you are ready to receive, that reflects back perhaps you to you, or something even beyond you that's ready to be known out of that unknown. And then gently bringing your palms together, and then just bring in a little bit of warmth, especially if where you are, like it is here in Colorado in January, it's chilly today. Let's go ahead and give a little bit of warmth here. And then bringing your hands to your heart, one palm over the other, over your heart. In your own way, letting whatever resonated or didn't resonate from this morning's sharings, just let that sift away, rest aside, or land where it lands. And perhaps choosing an intention for what you would like out of our time together. Bringing that intention with you. I'll invite you to transition to your mat. If you're not there already, I will make that sacred pilgrimage to my mat. I'm shifting my view slightly here, but if you want to stay in gallery, if you are here on the Zoom, shifting however you need. So that was a bit of an extended share here today. Thank you for bearing witness and being part of. And let's get into our bodies. So intentions that I'm bringing in today is to be able to root down, really feel that root system so that we can rise, and to express that full range of self through every contraction and expansion. May we dance through those spaces together. And then bringing hands back together, this time a little bit more slowly, a little bit side to side, just sensing, feeling, giving and receiving. And then allowing your hands to make contact with your very own face. Just sweeping across your forehead, your cheeks, maybe your hairline or scalp. Arriving and greeting yourself just as you are. No need to be any different. Maybe you greet your throat, your neck, your ears. I like to roll my earlobes out and in, move jaw. Ah. You might even give a sound to your experience. Ah. Mm. Ah. And the next invitation is to bring one hand back over your heart, one over your belly, and to start to connect to your breath. Beginning to inhale deep down into this kind of cavern, this canyon of the belly, this lower hand over your navel. And then exhale, drawing that back. So beginning to find some movement of the belly with the breath. And then as you move belly and breath, allowing yourself to send that breath up through diaphragm, up towards your chest heart. So inhaling, expanding the belly, expanding across your rib cage, bringing that breath right up to your heart. And exhale, let that go. Find that empty vessel. And for me, as soon as I start breathing diaphragmatically, I actually want to start to find movement of my spine. So you might find that as well. And as you inhale, perhaps begin to find length and extension of your spine. And exhale, contract and draw it inward. Continuing to move with your breath. Maybe a sound, a sigh. And you might begin to sense that as you increase the intensity of breath, the fullness of breath, you might also begin to sense the contracted spaces, the tightness. Maybe it's your shoulders, your jaw, your chest, your diaphragm. So as you continue to breathe in this manner, let it really become organic. You might really contract right over an area of tightness or tension. Give it a sound. And as you expand, let something new fill in. The air, like the water in the bowl, bringing something new into those spaces that we carve out. Finding your rhythm here, breath and movement. And maybe you allow your hands to come along for the ride, your arms expanding like wings, and on the exhale, drawing it in to contract again. And because it's yours, it's your practice, it's your rhythm, really feeling into how you want to own this. Maybe you even go towards one side, maybe you dig down, maybe you open up. All right, your rhythm, your body. Beautiful. One more like that. And then releasing down and pausing for a moment. A sacred pause, a sacred moment of stillness to sense and feel what's moving, what's still a little stuck, maybe a lot stuck. And as needed, tapping in, tuning in to anything. Maybe it's the plants in your space, or in my space, a flower, a candle, a scent that just anchors you into the sensory knowing that it's okay enough right now to do this deep practice. Yeah. Our next layer of movement is to find some spinal rotation. So we'll move circularly, doesn't matter which direction you start with. We're going to go both ways. Inhaling forward and exhale as you come around back. And it's a beautiful place to sense into the three-dimensionality of your body. Sensing perhaps the bowl of your pelvis. And like a mortar and pestle, you're kind of stirring, refining the grains. You're preparing something to be transformed. Inhale as you reach. Exhale, contract, maybe even contract around those abdominal muscles, massaging your digestive organs. And then let's take it the opposite direction. Your pace, your rhythm. Beautiful. Two more in this direction. And then coming up to center and exhale. Let that go. Let yourself receive whatever it is that you're cultivating. Let it be known to yourself. Next invitation is to find a gentle twist side to side. And today we'll do this by inhaling arms to lift and exhale to one side. Inhale through center and exhale the other way. And again, it's your rhythm. So finding how you make this movement yours. Eyes can be open or closed. If eyes are open, you might experiment gazing behind you as you twist to each side. Maybe you lift your gaze towards your fingertips at center, gazing upward. Beautiful. One more each side. And next time you arrive on one side, pause there. Allow your hand to give a hook to your knee and then lean in the opposite direction. And then you might take the opposite arm up and above or even overhead, just greeting your side body and make it yours. Send your breath towards sensation. Maybe give a sigh or a sound. Ha. Not uncommon to have some little grabs or tight spots around the rib cage or side body. And let's go ahead and lift up through center, and we'll go ahead, lift the arms. We switch sides, twisting the other way, give a hook to your knee, and then just leaning away. So now we're getting into side body. Maybe that back arm lifts. You get to choose where you want to place your gaze. Mm. And then let's go ahead and lift on out and unwind. Give your shoulders a few rotations, one direction and the other. Maybe rotating through your forearms around your elbows in each direction, your wrists. Give them a little dance. Let your shoulders dance, your arms go with it. Let all of the joints of your shoulders, elbows, and wrists move into their own spiral dance for a moment. Send your breath in and out, and let that go. And then invitation to take your chin towards your upper chest, and then half circles, taking ear towards one shoulder, and then through center as you exhale the other way. This too is a place to really refine and make it yours. So you might sense that there's a tight spot that you're aware of now in neck, side of neck, upper shoulder, base of skull. A nice place to pause, send your breath, maybe a sound. Mm, mm. Good. Just a few more breaths here. Again, greeting what might feel like a tight spot, sending your breath, your prana, life force energy into those places, your awareness, is profound, life-giving and life-changing. And then coming back to center when you feel ready and pause to receive. It's deep, right? Especially when we work around the neck, throat, shoulders. Maybe a sigh. And if you need to, at any point, if you greet too much of a contraction, expand your awareness back out. Feel the space that holds you, a whole community of people around the world practicing together, a sense that you are not alone. Beautiful, beautiful. All righty. I'm going to invite you to free up your legs and we'll get into a little bit of just movement of the hips. So I'm going to take my feet hip widths or so apart and just allow the knees to fall one direction and then the other. Now you can, as many of you know, you've taken with me before, you can stay with your hands on the mat. You might reach one arm across. So if my knees go to the left, my right arm likes to reach around. You can pause and greet sensations here. Make this yours. You might stay lifted or you might bend down over that lower leg. So these somatic movements, these warm-ups, literally warming up the body, are opportunities to sense and feel what is your body needing you to know today based on all the things, right? How you slept last night, what you ate today, what's happening externally in your life that you're ingesting. And this practice is to support you to digest all of those life experiences, whether they're personal or more collective events in our world. And staying with the side to side action of the legs, I'll show another variation. And this is the look ma no hands variation. Some of you know that one. So this is now getting into a little bit more of the core that's going to support that balance. So as your legs lift and lower, you can start to feel that awakening of Agni or fire, fire in the belly. Opening to each side. One more each way. I always crawl to the front of my mat in this one. And then when you're ready, go ahead and come on back. Maybe you need to scooch back on your mat like I do. And then I'll invite you to come down onto your back. Arriving on your back, we're actually going to do a variation of that very same movement. So as you arrive on your back, feet still hip width, and then allowing your knees to drop to one side and then the other. And as knees drop, you might notice that the other shoulder lifts, your arm might reach across. And I love to think of this as that moment of watching a favorite animal just rolling in the grass, allowing yourself to be moved and to move in a very intuitive fashion, remembering to breathe. And then back to center when you're ready and feel even on both sides. As you arrive in center, a moment to pause, sense and feel. You might even find what we'll call broken bridge, taking feet wide, knees soften in towards each other, maybe a hand on your belly, a hand on your heart. And just notice any resulting swirls or movements that are happening as you settle in stillness. Listening to your body. Do you need more time to settle and sense? Are you ready for more movement? If you are, I'll invite you to take your feet hips width or sit bones width apart, and we'll find a moving bridge here. So inhale, the invitation is to lift your hips, and exhale to lower them down. You might even subtly tilt your tailbone down, giving a little arch under the spine. And you can stay just like this. Inhale, lifting, exhale, lowering, or you might bring your arms along for the ride. If you're doing so, inhale, bringing arms up overhead. And exhale as everything lowers back down. And then just finding your rhythm. Your spine here like a string of pearls, and we're just opening up blood flow. Let everything be a little bit more liquidy, fluidy. Good. One more like that, whichever version you're doing. And then let that go. Next invitation is to take your hands, take a hold of the sides of your mat, and allow that to be a bit of an anchor here so that as you lift through your legs, you can alternately lower one leg and then the other leg, and you have a nice strong base. Alternately, if gripping your mat isn't serving you, you can place your hands like a little diamond under your sacrum, and same action. So I'm going to give two options for this one. So this is option one, wherever your hands are, but it's alternately lowering and lifting your legs. And option two is to get the upper body involved, and that's really just up to you. So if you are going for the upper body with this, you're going to place your hands behind your head and lift your shoulders off the mat, and then allowing the movement of the legs to continue. And then we will bring this into a straight-legged bicycle, taking right elbow towards left leg, inhale center, and switch it out. As with everything, find your pace, your rhythm with the breath and movement. In whichever form you're choosing, whether or not you have the upper body involved, we are going for a waking up of the core of the body once again. An essential component of our root system. Beautiful. One more time each side. Even yourself out. And then when you're ready, coming back to center, lowering your head, taking a clasp around your knees, and maybe a little rock side to side. Mm. And next opportunity here is to go ahead and take some variation of a happy baby. Now, often we might feel like we just need to go ahead and grab our feet. I'm going to actually recommend that you grab around the ankles in this one and let this be a very free form movement. So you might rotate now, feet around the ankles. You can rock a little side to side on your sacrum. You might lengthen one leg and then the other. Let it be a little free form. And as with everything, if you notice that there's a tight spot, an area that's needing attention, you get to pause, you get to explore, get to know what your body is holding. Send your breath there, give it a sound. Beautiful. And we'll bring our embodiment into a new shape here. I'll invite you to take your hands behind your knees and find a rock and roll here on your spine if that's right for you. And eventually we're going to meet crossing shins as we come into a tabletop and finding your way into a new relationship to gravity, to your body, and an opportunity for some flowing movements here, whether you want a cat-cow, whether you want something that's got no known yoga posture name, but it just simply feels good to you. Give a contraction, a sound. Maybe it's greeting your side body. Ah. Maybe it's pressing back into a child's. And then noticing when you feel ready to move again. There is no goal to achieve. We are not perfecting a posture. We are following sensations, making it yours. Beautiful. From here, if you're ready to move on with some more guided movement, I'm going to invite you to take your left leg back. And with left leg back, just giving a few heel rocks, sensing into the back of your left leg, maybe specifically your calf muscle, your ankle, the sole of your foot. And then I'll invite you to take a walk around to the left so that you're in kind of a half table, half extended leg here. And then we'll take what I love to refer to as Fern fronds, a beautiful example of expansion and contraction. Your left arm is going to be your moving arm as your left leg is your extended leg. And inhale, sweeping your left arm up, maybe taking your gaze up. And exhale as you come under. Don't know if I said that correctly. So inhale is the reach, the lift, and exhale is under. And then it's your rhythm. Knowing that in that contraction phase, as the fern curls into itself, it's gathering, right? There's some potential energy. And then as we expand, we express that energy into the world. There's more to be experienced, and we bring it back into self. And then finding your rhythm, two more on the side. Beautiful. And then coming back to two hands on the mat, and then an opportunity just to come a little bit forward and back. So if I'm showing this from a different angle, it's just a little bit of an experiment of greeting the inside of your left leg. You might even take it into a little bit of I don't know, a spiral movement, right? If you can see in this angle, it's just a really feeling it into how does your body move from this home base of a shape, whatever we want to call it. We'll call it water bug. How about that? Okay, let's take our water bugs into gait. So go ahead and come back to center and then finding your way up, lifting here and exhale, leaning to the left. Another opportunity to greet side bodies. Let it feel good. Notice where your gaze would like to be. And then up, around, and over. Invitation is to plant your left hand. You can keep your left foot down, maybe taking your left arm overhead. Now we've got a nice modified side plank. Experiment, if you'd like, with lifting your left foot and sending it even a little further away, grounding down through the outer edge of your left foot. Maybe you experiment with lifting your left leg and keeping it lifted, finding a little balance here. Maybe you draw elbow to knee. Inhale, reach, expand, exhale, go towards the contraction. One more expansion, contraction, and this next expansion opportunity maybe to send your arm back, reach around. Maybe you find a little bow shape, not necessary. And then release, coming back around to table. And from table, another moment here just to find your free form movement. Make it yours. And then we'll go into side 2 of all of that, sending right leg back and a few heel rocks, calf, back of leg, sole of foot. Let it be yummy. I like that word. And then when you're ready, this time walking around to the right. Here we are, okay? And allowing yourself to find those fern fronds. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch myself around so that I'm facing you. And this time it's the right arm that's gonna come and exhale underneath. So feeling your way in. Hmm. Two more here. And when you feel even, now an opportunity with two hands down, just to find a little bit of flow here in this home base of our, we'll call it water bug shape. Yeah. Just finding maybe forward and back, maybe circular movements into hip, knee joint. This side might have a different story to tell. And when you're being guided by your sensations, you don't worry so much about the two sides being exactly the same. Good. When you feel ready or even enough, we're going to go ahead and lift up for gate. Lift up here and leaning to the right. Let that feel good. And when you find the crunchy spot, see what happens if you contract around it. What expansion is on the other side? Lifting up, around and over, planting your hand. And we'll start out with right foot on the ground, maybe right arm reaching straight up or overhead. And you can experiment a little bit with reaching your right leg away, finding that length. You can always stay right here, or you might experiment with lifting right foot off the earth, finding the balance here, and then exhale. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Again. Next expansion is an opportunity perhaps to reach back and around. It doesn't matter if you don't take a hold of your foot. You can still find a variation of that shape just in the intention and the reach. And then release, letting it all go. And we meet back in tabletop. For a moment, maybe finding a more classic cat-cow. Inhale, lifting head, tail. Exhale, curling it all in. Mm, beautiful. And then from here, grounding through your hands, invitation to curl your toes under if they aren't already, to lift your knees off the earth. You might pause here for a moment and then begin to press yourself back into a downward facing dog and then walk it out, make it yours. Just like every other shape here, this is a home base for your exploratory movement. And you always have the option to find stillness if that's your preferred variation today. Knowing that every time we sit on the mat, and even if you were to come back and do this same practice multiple times, it's going to be new and different depending on the body you're in as you enter. There's something unchanging, and that's you. Beneath all the form gives way to that which is formless. From your downward facing dog, I'll invite you to take a gaze to the front and a nice sauntering walk to get there, arriving towards the front of your mat, and an invitation to take a halfway lift and a forward fold. And we're going to repeat that again, just acclimating before we come up to standing. Inhale halfway, exhale, fold. One more halfway lift. Inhale. Exhale. And then with a nice soft bend in the knees, inhale all the way up to standing. And exhale, samastitihi. Maybe palm to palm at your heart, palm over palm at your heart, hands by your sides, whatever supports you to be present in this moment. To notice in a brief pause and stillness what's changing throughout the practice. What are you aware of now, sensing perhaps heartbeat, movement of energy, warmth? Maybe coming back to your intention. I'll invite you to join me for a little side bend here. We've been playing with side bodies in various shapes, and we'll have another variation here. Invitation is to grab hold of I'll take right hand around left wrist, just so maybe we're all on the same side together, and then leaning to the right. And then just coming in and out for a few breaths here, just finding how your body takes this shape, feeling that inherent in this variation of a half moon, we have a contraction in one side body and expansion on the other. Back through center, let's take it to the other side. So left hand grasping right wrist and a few breaths here. Beautiful. And back through to center. Invitation is to take your arms up overhead and exhale into a forward fold. Halfway lift is the inhale. And exhale, planting your hands, stepping back. Invitation is to lower all the way to the earth. I'll offer up knees, chest, chin before settling hips down to the mat. I'm inviting you to find some rolling cobras here. Inhale to lift through your heart, crown of your head. Exhale to lower. And then just rolling your way through several breaths, finding your rhythm. You always get to choose how much weight in the hands, how much lift of your heart. It might be super subtle and you might not use hands at all. One more round here. And then an invitation to press yourself very briefly back into child's. Before coming up through table and meeting in downward facing dog. This downward dog, second time here. What's evolving? What's changing? Maybe new awareness. And how can you refine your experience? And gently taking that walk or a hop to the front of your mat. Finding a halfway lift, inhale. Exhale to fold. Inhale all the way up to standing and exhale, releasing your hands. So find a variation of that side body opener we did before. Inhale, invitation to take your left wrist with your right hand. This time, as you lean to the right, I invite you to take a little curtsy lunge. So left foot coming behind the right, and just allow yourself to feel into this shape. You can pause here, find your breath in the shape, make it yours. And then come up through center. We'll switch it out, taking left hand around right wrist. It's right foot that steps behind, and a little curtsy lunge here. We are crossing midline and just get to play in the space. Beautiful. Right back up through center. And then releasing your hands down. Turning towards the front of your mat if you're not there. Inhale, this time maybe a gentle heart opener, back lengthener as you draw your heart towards the sky, elbows behind. Inhale. Exhale. And we're going to flow to downward dog, and you've got options. You can come to the earth for cobra, or you might step back high plank, moving into chaturanga low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward dog. Knowing that that child's pose is always there, welcoming, a nice place to pause and rest. How does your body give you the signal for rest or for, yes, I'm ready for more movement? And for today, I'll invite you to take your right leg behind you. So if you are joining for more movement, sending right leg back and exhale, stepping forward into a low lunge. Now, I love blocks for this. Many of you know that. Feel it out for yourself. It's an opportunity just to come in and out of your lunge. And I like these go-go gadget arms, lengthening through the arms with the blocks. Little bit more spaciousness. And now an opportunity to greet into your left hip flexor, your right hamstring. And then from this lunge shape, you always get to make it yours. You can stay lifted with your heart. You might even lower to the inside of your right leg in more of a lizard shape. You might turn towards your right leg in a lunge. You might even bend through left foot and take a hold. There's no right, wrong, better, worse. But as you continue to do these practices, your body is going to say, "Ooh, just that. That's exactly what I want right now." And you're going to follow those sensations. You're going to know how you want to move and breathe. And that's your yoga. Um, If you're ready for some more guided movements, next invitation is to take left knee up and to begin to lift up off of the earth. Now we're in a standing crescent, left foot lifted, maybe arms up overhead. And just a few breaths here. You can come in and out of the shape, lift and lower. From our crescent shape, I'm going to invite you to twist toward the right, taking right arm back and behind. Maybe your gaze turns to the right. Just acclimating to this shape. There's a lot of balance going on here. So feeling that root system of your legs, even as you expand in your upper body. Maybe staying just like this, maybe taking this into an exalted crescent, taking right hand towards your sacrum and lifting your left arm up overhead. Again, a lot of balance going on. Use your gaze for balance. Use your breath. And then it's a big move. We're going to reopen the arms, turn the whole thing around, and we come into a five-pointed star. So you've turned around to the left. There you go. Beautiful. And take a moment, maybe shake out your hips. Next invitation is to take this into a warrior two base toward the right. So as you find this shape, allow yourself to make it yours. So when I say a little home base for exploratory movement, I really mean it. So this option here of this warrior two base, this rooting system in the legs, then becomes opportunities to reach away, to reach toward shapes that we might call um, reverse or an extended side angle. You might even lengthen through your right leg, a reverse triangle, a trikonasana, a triangle shape, but make it yours. Just finding how breath and movement around this home base shape in the legs is going to serve you today. Gorgeous. Another breath or two here. And then I'll invite you to turn toward your front foot, lifting through your back heel. And maybe blocks are here for you as you come back down and forward. Now, I like blocks in my high setting for this, and then drawing the left foot in a little bit closer to come into pyramid. Now, pyramid is another profoundly rooting home base shape in the legs that allows you to explore whether you want to work with a long spine or rounding over your right leg. Maybe you don't need the blocks and the floor is there for you, but knowing that there's no right or wrong. How does your body want to meet this shape? When you feel ready, or if you would like, the next option here is to draw your right foot back a little bit. So now you have a triangle between foot and blocks and hands to lift your left leg. So we want to call this a kind of halfway, a grounded airplane. Let's call it that. We've got our hands on the ground and we're in a bit of an airplane shape with the body. And then maybe you free your right hand to reach around to take hold of your left foot. So we've got a little half bow. From here, maybe you bend into your right knee and you lift up into a reverse dancer. Now, no right, no wrong. If it's wobbly, beautiful, maybe you've got a wall to hang on to or a top of a chair. Just another breath or two in whatever version of this shape you found. And then releasing from this into tree. Now, it can take a little bit to get there. You might use your hand to find your way into this standing tree. Left foot can be above or below, but not directly against right knee. Maybe you're kickstanded to the earth. All beautiful, right? Finding your way in, feeling into your root system. What helps you to ground here so that you can root to rise, maybe expressing through your arms. And then slowly, gently, returning your hands, returning 2 feet to the earth, and pausing for a moment between sides. There was a lot of movement there. You might bend a little bit through your knees just to feel that your weight can shift a little side to side. Maybe you want stillness. And recollect yourself to yourself. Your awareness gets to settle in and absorb the sensory experience and integrate all of that movement. When you're ready, side 2 awaits. Invitation, if you're not there, to turn towards the front of your mat. You're probably still there. And I'll invite you to inhale, sweep your arms. Exhale, find a fold. Finding a halfway lift, inhale, and your way to downward facing dog, however you would like to get there. From your downward facing dog, inhale to lift your left leg, and exhale forward and through, and a few breaths here. Lifting and lowering. Your experience of left leg forward might be quite different, right? This side might have a different story to tell. Breathing into right hip flexor, left hamstring, right knee can be lifted or lowered. And then when you feel ready, if you feel ready, keeping those blocks towards the front of your mat, they'll come in handy. And finding your way into a crescent lunge. So this time the right heel will stay lifted. Feet are more like railroad tracks or hip widths apart versus balance beam. They're not in line with each other. So you have a nice wide root system of the base, even as we come into a balancing shape of crescent. Inhale, sweeping your arms. Maybe you lift and lower out of the shape for a few breaths. Beautiful. And then from here, invitation is to open this up to the left. So you're turning toward your front left leg, and maybe your gaze follows, finding this twisted crescent shape, how it is supported by your breath and your gaze to help you balance. And then maybe exalting your shape, taking left hand to sacrum or maybe back of left thigh, and then, or right thigh, and then allowing your right arm to come up. Maybe your gaze is down, maybe your gaze is lifted. And it's a big move, a big opening around to the right to arrive in that five-pointed star. You can shake and shimmy your hips before descending into our warrior two base to the left leg front. And then, because it's simply that home base, make it yours. You might come in and out of the lunge. You might reach upper body away and back toward. Putting all of those options together, how do your arms want to embellish and express? Beautiful. If you're needing more time there, take it. Otherwise, we make our transition back toward the left front leg, lifting through your right heel to lift up, to lower down, greeting your blocks, maybe in their higher setting, and just shorten your stance just enough for a pyramid shape. Now, pyramids are often considered to be one of the most rooted, grounding, solid forms, right? So obviously we only have 2 points of contact with our feet. Our hands are going to add to that with these four corners of contact with the earth. And then embellish, make it yours. Maybe a long spine, maybe folding in around this supported base, this foundation. And shortly, we're going to lift off and fly from this base, sliding your left foot back into center. So you have a nice triangle between hands and left foot. As we lift right leg off the earth, we now have 3 points of contact. Experimenting with what that feels like in your body. Maybe you lift left hand off and now we have 2 points of contact with the earth. Can you keep your root system awake? Maybe you reach back, maybe you even clasp around your right foot, finding a little bow, and with a bend in your left knee, we reduce that to 1 point of contact with the earth, which is your left foot, as right arm lifts and rises you into a reverse dancer. Your breath, your heart, your fingers, all in that expansive shape. And then slowly letting that go and making your way into a tree. Our final rooted shape, making it yours. How does your body want to find a tree today? I'll offer on this side to create that bowl with your hands one more time. Sensing the empty vessel that you get to hold between your two palms, and that which you pour in through intention and attention breath and movement. That which through the culmination of your practice begins to reflect you back to you with great clarity. And softly release, 2 feet on the earth. And in your own way, I'll invite you to make your way all the way down to your back on your mat. Nothing super special in that transition. Maybe adding a layer for warmth if it's chilly where you are. And once you arrive on your back, the next few minutes are yours. Allow yourself to tune into how does your body want to move to complete this practice. It might be taking you into a known shape, right? Maybe another happy baby. Maybe it's a half wind removing. Maybe it's a supine twist. Maybe it's a free flow that has no known name, but that is simply being guided by your sensations. How do you want to move to feel complete? Honoring sensations, maybe finding your way into a few more areas of contraction. If you still find them in there, send your breath there. Give them a sound. And then as you find your way to completion of your free form movements, making your way into a final shape that allows you to simply receive. Take in, gather yourself to yourself. As you arrive in your resting shape, I'll invite you to stay there for the next several minutes. I'll invite you to receive our poem for today one more time. This poem is called In Praise of Hands by Stuart Kestenbaum. And it goes like this. It's not just the people who live in the city who've lost the thread that ties them to the woven world of stones and earth, fields alive with pollen and wings. Who among us understands how oceans rise and fall? Currents swirling around the planet with messages in bottles floating on the water. When the tide is out, we can go to the shore, dig clay with our bare hands, and make something beautiful from it. A vessel with thin walls that holds a canyon. In both hands, like an offering, we can hold the memory of eroded stones and earth. Eons contained in this empty bowl. We can fill it with water that reflects the sky, that has witnessed everything since time began. And we can drink and be blessed, clouds gathering over us. Now, you are always welcome to stay here. It's a subtle practice today, but profound. So really take your time to integrate and receive this. When you are ready, if you are ready, I'll invite you to find some gentle movements, fingers, toes, ankles, wrists. Drawing knees into your chest, maybe rocking on your spine, rocking to one side. And then rolling to the side, maybe pausing in a fetal position, just letting yourself feel held for one more moment before gently making your way back up. And we return for another point of closure of this practice, deep connection, deep honoring of the courage that it takes to go inward into the tight spots that live in ourselves and collectively that sit between us. With gratitude, namaste.